Welcome to this Killick Explains video, and welcome to the first video in what may become a rolling series called Investing Under Trump. This is part one, and I want to take on the vital role of an institution that he briefly attacked and has since backed off, the Federal Reserve. Chairperson there, Jay Powell. All right, so this is part one, other parts will follow. So basically, why am I talking about the Federal Reserve now, even though it's slipped out of the news as this video is being shot? And the answer is that Trump arrived into power, was inaugurated on a program of change. And one of the changes it seems he thought he might make, but fortunately has yet to do so, is targeting the independence of the Federal Reserve, and in particular, the personality at the top of it, Jay Powell. Markets reacted incredibly badly to that. It's not the only piece of news they've reacted badly to in 2025, but they didn't like it. So what's going on? Why don't markets like it? And why is it really important that Trump doesn't have another go? Now, in order to answer that, we need to go back to what is the role of an independent central bank. We have the Bank of England here. They have the Federal Reserve, the Fed over there. You've got European Central Bank, Bank of Japan, and so on. And the answer is they all basically do two things. Now, they balance two objectives. One is they have an inflation mandate. In other words, they want prices to rise at a certain pace, and they have interest rate policy plus a bit of tinkering called quantitative easing and the reverse quantitative tightening at their disposal. And they also try and maintain financial stability. Okay, so those two broad objectives. And basically, independence gives them the ability to essentially judge what the best policy strategy is going to be and weigh up what they need to do to keep inflation in check and growth at a sensible level. All right, and independence is important. You might think, well, couldn't Trump mandate all this stuff? It's important that banks such as the Fed are independent because that gives investors and the wider market visibility over how they're making decisions, a degree of predictability, right? You absolutely don't want the president stepping in and saying, cut rates, do this, do that. Investors need a degree of predictability and, of course, trust. People think, actually, if the central bank is truly independent, then we can rely on it to set policy when it comes to interest rates, quantitative easing, quantitative tightening, and so on, with one clear vision in mind. Now, why did Trump interfere? Why did Trump say, actually, this independent central bank business doesn't work for me? And the simple answer is his Liberation Day tariff war, as people have called it, basically unleashed chaos. Markets have sort of settled themselves down a bit since. And he thought, well, wait a minute, if my tariff strategy is going to impact growth, impact not just Wall Street, which is where stocks and shares are traded, were kind of tumbling at the time, but also impact Main Street, which is real businesses, if you like, out there doing stuff in the American economy, then what better solution than to force the Federal Reserve to cut interest rates? That will give the economy a little bit of a boost, all right, in growth terms. Markets like it, okay, so that's the way forward. And basically, when the Federal Reserve Chairman said, I'm not cutting rates on the instruction of the US President because that's not my day job, Trump got pretty upset and even threatened to try and unseat Jay Powell himself. All right. Now, basically, why the pushback? Okay. Why did the Federal Reserve not just say, oh, all right, Trump's got a point, growth could be under threat, tariffs are going to make things bumpy, so let's just cut rates. All right. Independent thinking, no. Why? Number one, apart from the bad optics, all right, the whole point of the independent central bank is it doesn't just answer the president, but leaving that to one side, tariffs are potentially inflationary. Now, it's not to say there won't be interest rate cuts. It's not to say that at all. It's just saying that the Federal Reserve's got to tread carefully. Because if you think about it, if tariffs themselves add to the price of goods and services, imports into the US, let's say, all right, and that triggers inflation, the last thing the Federal Reserve wants to do is to add to that potentially by cutting interest rates immediately. It also means they're using up ammunition they might need later to support the US economy once the true tariff impact comes through, as Trump would say, as the economy transitions. to his new model, whatever that means. And they're also in the background weighing a new threat, which hopefully won't come to pass, which we haven't seen for a while, called stagflation. And stagflation is a nasty combination of slowing or stagnant growth and rising prices. All right? And that requires a bit of nimbleness on behalf of any central bank when it comes to interest rate policy. Now, so far, stalemate, if you like. So far, Trump has backed off at the point this video is being made. Could he go again? Frankly, legally, in the US, I mean, Trump's quite happy to sort of override parts of the established system, it seems, but legally it's quite difficult, to put it bluntly, to remove the chairperson of the Federal Reserve early, all right? And I suspect were he to try again, never say never, especially with that man in office, he would get strong resistance from within his own party, the Republican Party, never mind the Democrats, and of course, possibly more importantly, those bond vigilantes I've talked about in other videos. In other words, take away or threaten the independence of the central bank and bond markets, which dictate the price that the US pays to borrow and all the rest of it. They go pretty mad pretty quickly. Okay, there it is. Okay, watch and wait. That's going to be the message at the end of a lot of these videos. If you'd like to know a bit more about some of the technical terms I just mentioned, then head to our resources section on the website. Okay, and there you'll find other Killick Explains videos. You'll find guides such as the How to Invest in Equities guide, updated for 2025-2026, the light blue cover. And of course, you'll find the latest and recent copies of our quarterly magazine, Confidant.